And now, to my biggest purpose, vorzustellen, the Mashgiach Shlita, someone who I can't describe, tens, hundreds of hours that have gone in his involvement in creating the Takonos and bringing about this awareness to Lakewood and to Klal Yisrael at large. And now we're going to hear über his Oivus from the Mashgiach.
Teire Mames Klal Yisrael. Teire Techte von Klal Yisrael. Each time we meet, this time of the year, we feel the togetherness of the Bnei Yeshiva, the Chavrei HaKollel, and all those who chose to live and become part of our Kehillah of Bnei Torah, who came to Lakewood because they wanted to raise the standards of their lives, the lives of their families, the future of their children. And in a way, I hope no one should take an exception to this. I feel very much like a Tata or a Zayda of every one of you here. And I want to speak to you in that vein, to talk openly together about how a family like ours has to confront the dangers, the emergencies that are so imminent and so evident in our midst. We just made Havdalah, a beautiful bracha. Hamavdil bein kodesh lechoil, bein oir lechoshach, bein Yisrael oamim, bein yoyim hashvi l'sheishes yimei hamas. The Havdalah, the separation, the difference. The Rebbeinu Shalom has set up mechitzas, their barricades between Kodesh and Choil, between things that are holy and things that are secular. And it's the same sort of division, and as clearly different and opposite as Oyer and Choshech, darkness and light. Bein Yisrael oamim. There's a Havdalah bein Yisrael oamim. The Havdalah bein Yisrael oamim, the Chofetz Chaim in his Sforim, when he used to write his Sforim, they had to be censored. At that time there were people who censored that there should be nothing which should be insulting to the Goyim. And Chofetz Chaim wrote in his Sefer, when he wrote about the Goyim, he wrote the Goyim lahavdil. And the person who was censoring, usually these people, unfortunately, were Shumodim, were Yidden who turned their backs on Yiddishkeit. And he was going through the Sefer and he said to the Chofetz Chaim, why do you write Lahavdil? So the Chofetz Chaim says, because the Torah says Lahavdil. Wa'avdil eschem min oamim liyo isli. Because it's part of the essence of our understanding of our mission in life. That there's a mechitza between us and what the nations have to offer. Their education is not our education. Their morals are not our morals. Their standards are not our standards. We have nothing to learn from them. Yes, if we would say Goyim Lahavdil, we would be better Yidden. Rav Nosson brings down, is brought down from Rav Nosson in the Sefer Leket Rishimus, that he said over from the Rosh Yeshiva Rav Aaron Zechreinu Livrocha, that Rav Aaron had a Kabbalah from the Chofetz Chaim. Rav Aaron, first of all, he said over a Kabbalah from the Chofetz Chaim that he heard in the time of the First World Milchama. Chofetz Chaim said there'll be a Second World Milchama, and that Milchama would not bring Moshiach. Milchama, and that Milchama would not bring Moshiach. And then there'll be a Hefsek, and then will come another Milchama. And that Milchama will be the Milchama which will bring Moshiach. And the Chofetz Chaim said, these two Milchamas, they take Tzadikim and Rishoim with them. But in that third Milchama, B'nai Torah, who are Muvdel Bein Yisrael o Amen, B'nai Torah who stand out as separate entirely from the culture of the people amongst whom they live, will have nothing to worry. Ben Torah Amiti, Shemuvdel u'menutek min hagoyim, ein olav shum shlita. And the Chofetz Chaim even gave the marshal that it could happen when, to explain that what if there's a war, so everybody's involved. If they're shooting, if there are bombs falling, everybody gets hit. Falls at random. How can a bomb, a rocket, or more sophisticated sorts of armor which they have today differentiate between a Ben Torah who's Muvdel Bein Yisrael o Amen? And the Chofetz Chaim wasn't worried about that. He said in Mitzrayim, when the Ribono Shel Olam brought the Makor of Dam on Mitzrayim, there was a Yid and a Mitzri. They tried to make it happen. When they saw, the Mitzri saw that everything he touched in water became blood, and a Yid had water. So he said to a Yid, come drink from me from the same vessel. And the Yid drank water, and the Mitzri drank Dam. The Ribono Shel Olam knows how to be Mavdil Bein Yisrael o Amen. Vivdalti eschem min oamim liyo isli. The interesting thing is that the pasuk from Vivdalti eschem min oamim liyo isli is written on two mitzvahs. The mitzvah of Aroyos, that parsha in the Torah, where we are commanded to stay as far away as possible from immoral relationships and by macholos asuras, by foods which the Torah prescribes as kosher, and that we have to keep as far away as possible from being contaminated by eating foods which the Torah forbade. And on these two issues, and only on these two issues, the Torah ends up with the psukim, "V'avdel etzem min ha'amim li yosli." These, the Torah says, anyone who has a shaychus to the Isurei Aroyos or to Macholos Asuras is forfeiting the breakdown of that barrier between Yisrael and Amim. These two things damage the essence of the neshama of a Yid, the food that one eats, and our behavior in the standards with which we keep ourselves apart and distant as can be from any connection whatsoever with immorality. These two things either purify the neshama of the Yid or chas v'sholem contaminate. And by contaminate we mean not only the person who is involved, but particularly the children that would be born from such a person who has absorbed the tumor that comes from either Aroyos or Macholos Asuras. The Kedusha of Klal Yisrael is based on that. The future of Klal Yisrael is based on that. And tonight particularly, we've come together to be mechazek ourselves, because we as the mothers or future mothers of Klal Yisrael carry a responsibility, an awesome responsibility, that chas v'sholem, the children that are born from us should not be born into a world with midas that already connect with that Amim who we want to be moved from. That is our responsibility. Ki bayoyim hazeh yichaper aleichem letayer eschem. The great day of Yom Kippur, the Chesed Godel that the Rebbeinu Shalom provided us, a day is described in the Torah not just of atonement, of kapara, forgiveness, but it's tar, the tires. This is the day where we can purify ourselves. If chas v'sholem we have become contaminated, if chas v'sholem our eyes have seen things they shouldn't see, and let me tell you, because sometimes there's a popular mistake that not to look at Aroyos is only for men and not for women. It's a big mistake. Chazal say very clearly, women are responsible for what they see, and what they see makes an impression on them. And it's even worse, because what makes an impression on them makes an impression on their children. Yehuda B'Rab Yekor, the Rebbe of the Ramban, describes that tefillah that we say on Yom Tov, Neveiso kevatchilo, Mechoinen mikdosh al mechoinoi, V'areinu bevinyonoi, V'samcheinu betikunoi. We wait and we beg for the Beis HaMikdash. And we're begging for the Beis HaMikdash. And we say to the Rebbeinu Shloim, we'd like to see the Beis HaMikdash rebuilt. Let us see Arego B'Inyonoi. But V'samcheinu, let us rejoice V'sikunoi. What does it mean, Sikunoi? It's repair. Its takana means a benefit which is made, something which is made in order to benefit, in order to protect, is called a takana. So Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Yekar, the only place where you find takana by the Beis HaMikdash is by the Simchas Beis HaShoeva, when Klal Yisrael were rejoicing in their thousands in the Beis HaMikdash, and the men came to the Beis HaMikdash to rejoice. Smachtu Lifnei Hashem, and the women came also to be present at the time, and they made a tikkun gadol. They made a special arrangement which was called a tikkun gadol, a great benefit. They separated the men from the women and put the women higher than the men on a different floor. And Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Yekar says it's called a tikkun gadol. It's a great benefit because it was a benefit for the ladies that their children should be pure children. Samcheinu b'sikunoi. And he brings down there that it's a mistake to think that to watch and have pleasure from watching the men is not as bad as men watching women. Depends on the thoughts you have. That the Maisa is something which you have to understand. When we talk about internet, of course, we don't need Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Yekar. I think we have to say lahavdil between Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Yekar and the internet. God mentioned as our holy name. But you have to know. We are talking about protecting our children, but I cannot hold myself back from saying you need to protect yourselves. And I know what I'm talking about, unfortunately. There is such a thing as chat rooms, which is a site on the internet in which you can meet people without seeing them or knowing who they are. But it can bring and has brought terrible tragedies on Yiddish families, unfortunately, amongst the best. Just tonight, somebody called me up, spoke to the Rebbetzin, and said that someone reported a young girl from a good family. So they saw them in the library on the chat room. What is one mechuyev to tell the parents or not? That's one. That's not one. Unfortunately, it's dozens. And this has to be stopped, and it can be stopped. And this evening, our korban that we're going to bring to the Rebbeinu Shloim for this Yom Kippur is Rebbeinu Shloim. We made a sacrifice, whether we're sacrificing pleasure or whether we're sacrificing parnasa. If we have no other way than to throw it out, then we'll do that Rebbeinu Shloim for you. Because there's a t'nai in Kabiyim Azeh Yechaper Aleichem L'Tayar Eschem. Do you know what the condition in that the Tayar of the Rebbeinu Shloim is? Mikol Chatoiseichem Lifnei Hashem Tithoru. This is the mitzvah of Yom Kippur, that we have to purify ourselves. And if we're not prepared to purify ourselves, we can't expect the Rebbeinu Shloim to meet us with his kapora But as soon as we are ball attire, as soon as we are prepared to purify ourselves, then Hashem Yisborach is there for us. He's waiting for that moment. Ball attire, Messiah in Israel. We'll feel a special help from Hashem. Help in Ruchnius to withstand the pressures of the Nisyonos. And help in Gashmius that we won't lose in any way by doing what the Rebbeinu Shlem is expecting of us. So if one wants to understand to what extent it's the duty of every mother to protect the purity, the holiness, and the refinement of midas of her child. To what extent it's the achrayus that by your behavior no one should be affected in a detrimental way. There's a halacha in Yeridea which says that Cholov Mitzris is mutter. Deutsche milk from a mother, from a wet nurse, it's mutter. You can give a Jewish child milk from a Goyish woman. Nevertheless, the Ramah says one shouldn't do it, because it's moilid tevara, because the milk is produced and it comes and it brings with it all the characteristics of the mother, and it's moilid tevara. Chas v'sholem will spoil the Yiddish midas of a child. And the Gaon brings there, where do you find this anywhere? If it's mutter, it's mutter. Where do you find this chumrah? Because it's moilid tevara, because it gives out, creates a bad nature. Therefore one shouldn't do it. And the Gaon says, because the Gemara in Soita tells the well-known story, when Bas Paroi took Moshe Rabbeinu out of the water, and she wanted to give it to someone else to nurse, and she called all the various ladies to nurse, and he refused to drink until his sister Miriam came and said, maybe I'll bring you somebody, he doesn't want it from a Mitzri, maybe I'll bring you somebody, a Jewish person, and he brought him his mother. And the Gemara says in Soita, why did he refuse? And the Gemara answers, because peh she'osid ledabe im hashchina, a mouth that's going to talk with the Rebbeinu Shloim should be yoinek from a Mitzri. The Gaon says that's the mekoyer of this halacha. That's the source of this halacha. The answer is that every mother has a responsibility. We don't know the children whom will be Zoicha and Yirtzeh to bring into this world, or the children who we have already been Zoicha to bring into this world. We don't know whether they will be Osid Linek Ledabe Mashchina. We don't know what madregas they are going to reach. But one thing we know, that we don't want to be blamed for any potential which couldn't be reached. It didn't come into reality because we were negligent in the Shmirah. And so the Ramah says every mother should have this goal for her children. I must protect him, that he should be able to be the one, a child, even a child who could have come to a high madrega of being able to speak with the Shekhinah. Chas v'sholem, to expose a child to a situation which will drive him away from Shekhinah, which will just do no more for the child than guarantee chas v'sholem einoi mekabel pnei hashchina, and not to appreciate the extent that we have to go to make sure that our children are not exposed. And we live in a world where it's impossible, kimat impossible. You need shmira from the Ribono Shel Olam. Your child shouldn't meet the wrong friends. He shouldn't go in the house where he sees things that he shouldn't see. He shouldn't at a street corner meet somebody who shows him a picture that he shouldn't see, which can damage him for life. And that you can't protect him. But if you want the Ribono Shel Olam to protect your child, then you have to be able to say, I did everything that was in my power. I didn't allow anything in the home that chas v'sholem could damage my child. And if anybody wants to say, my children are different, they are innocent neshamas, go home. Tonight it's already too late. Tomorrow morning, ask them a few pointed questions. I hope you won't be shocked. But I've had too many experiences to know that there's a great percentage of children who've seen a lot more than their parents know about. We've all already seen the takonos which have been sent out. I don't want to go into the detail here, but you have to know that the Rosh Yeshivas, Manhigei Oyer, sent out to all the Bnei HaKoil, to all those who belong to our Beis HaMedrash, and to tell them that a person who has internet in his home has no place in the Beis HaMedrash. The exceptions need to be confirmed by the poskim of the yeshiva. One doesn't do such things easily when we know that we are imposing on people's lives, when we know we're making it difficult. And by the way, let me tell you that many people feel deprived. They're not allowed to do their shopping from the internet, and we know we care for this. It's not chas v'sholem. We just come down, Yikiv Adina Sohar. We hope Be'ez Hashem in the very near future to set up a location where there will be a battery of computers and with internet, with people in attendance, where anyone can go there. It should be local and do their shopping from there. There are eitzes for everything, and we're looking for eitzes. We're not looking to make people's lives hard. But even in the meanwhile, a bissel mesirus nefesh, that should be a reason to disregard the dangers, that should be a reason that to defend yourself, you'll make litzonos rachmana litzlan from takonos that will be worked on by Talmidei Chachamim for hours and hours, with only one thing in mind: how can we protect your children? On the other hand, I have a great feeling of pride standing here this evening. Rabbi Akiva says Ashreichem Yisrael lifnei mi atem metarim umi metayres. Gewaldig. A hamoin, ladies in their thousands on a Moitzoi Shabbos, kimat by Chatzois already. And they've come for one purpose alone. Bol attire. Ribono shel olam. Klal Yisrael, yo Klal Yisrael. Mikol chateiseichem lifnei Hashem titogu. We're looking for Tara. And we're waiting for you. But I want to tell you much more than that. Much more than that. The Asifa which we had with the men, and this Asifa that is taking place this evening, I don't think that any one of you, or for that matter any one of us, can understand and appreciate what is happening, not what is happening here in this hall this evening, not what is happening when it will be reported perhaps in various media. What is happening in the Bria, we are changing the Bria. Changing the Bria, nothing more, nothing less. The beautiful Chazal, Ayalkut Shimoini in Parshas Emor, which says these words: Sora yorda leMitzrayim, v'godra atzma mino ervo, v'nigderu kol hanoshim b'zchuso. Sora Yimenu had an Nisoyen when she was taken by the king of Mitzrayim, and she withstood that Nisoyen, and the Chazal said it was a Nisoyen. And she didn't let him touch her. And b'schus that, why did it happen in Mitzrayim? Mitzrayim was Erva Sa'oretz. The Apostle says, K'maise Eretz Mitzrayim asher yishavtem bo lo taisu. K'maise Eretz Canaan asher ani mevi esan shova lo tasu. When the Torah wants to talk about the depravity of the lowest moral standards, then it's called K'maise Eretz Mitzrayim. And Klal Yisrael were meshubed in that place, and they had continuous nisyones in Aroyes, and no single person, one single lady, no single person in Klal Yisrael fell in. The Ribono shel olam Shiftei Kor, he gave his stempel on the kedusha of every family. Say Chazal, you know why? Because Sora was what withstood an Nisoyen in Mitzrayim, in one place in the palace of the king. And because of that, all the Yidden in all Mitzrayim felt the Kedusha, Teures later, and were able to withstand the Nisoyen. Yosef yorad leMitzrayim, v'goda atzvei mino ervo, v'nigderu kol hanoshim kulo. The men got the strength from the one Nisoyen that Yosef HaTzadik stood. The ladies got their koyach, their strength, from the one Nisoyen. If we are mekabel, we accept upon ourselves, even if it's going to make difficulties in our lives, we mekabel ourselves to protect our children for the royos, because that's what we're talking about. Yes, protect our husbands from our royos, and husbands should protect their wives from our royos. And if we are mekabel that, you know what that means? That means that we're metired ganz America. It'll be easier for an Ehrliche Yid, whatever place, in what verworfene place, to withstand the Nisyones. Because here in Lakewood, Hamoin, Anoshim, Noshim, we're mekabel on themselves to be goyder atzmon ba'aroyos. Is there a greater schus that we can take to Rebbeinu Shloim Yom Kippur? Teire, Kedusha. All of us here this evening should go home feeling uplifted. We're raising ourselves, whether we have internet in our home or not, but we are raising ourselves to a new level of Kedusha. A level of Kedusha that comes out of an awareness that we have to make Gedorim. Tumah doesn't just come from the Averos alone. If we allow ourselves to get too close for safety, then we already contaminate. And this Asifa this evening will bear fruits in the Kedusha and Taira of Klal Yisrael. And let me read you the last part of that wonderful medrash. Omar Rav Chia bar Abba, Kedai hu geder ervo sheyigalu Yisrael b'schusay. What more do we want? We've come this evening to make sure that Toshin Samach Vov should be the year that Mashiach should come. We've come here to show the Rebbeinu Shloim. We're prepared to be Moser Nefesh. We're prepared to stand up to the ridicule of all the critics and cynics and tell them in their face that that one who laughs last is the one who laughs best. Oz yimole is choik pinu u'sheneinu rino. We'll be the ones to laugh when the Rebbeinu Shloim will gather us in. When the time will come, and we are prepared for that time. The time will come when there'll be a terrible milchama, but we made our safety and security guaranteed, because there's a Havtocha and a Kabbalah that if we make the Havdalah bein Yisrael or Amin complete, if there are no breaches and no pirza in that Havdalah, Hamavdil bein Kodesh lechoil, bein Oil lechoshech, bein Yisrael or Amin, bein Yoim Ashvi l'Sheishes Yemei HaMaisa, all these things work together to build up the Kedusha of a Yid. And if the Havdalah bein Yisrael lo Amin will be intact in our homes, then our homes will remain intact in the face of the gravest dangers that may come upon any place. This is our security shelter. Let's take advantage. The Rebbeinu Shloim should look with a gewaldige, I'm sure, with a meirdik and achasuach. I don't think we could do anything better before Yom Kippur. The Rebbeinu Shloim should be mekabel, berachmim, uverot, our good intentions that we're having now at this particular moment. And that should be a reach nichoyach, a nachasuach lefonov. Shomarti v'naiser etzoini, my kinderlich want to do what I want them to do. They are metayeh themselves, and I'll be metayeh them. They are roy l'geula, so I'll bring the geula. A gute Woche.